briefly show you how to do everything. We're not going to go super in depth. We do have up here, there's a little square postcard that will tell you where to go to get to our hydraulic press boot camp, which is a class that me and her put together. It's completely free, shows you in depth how to use absolutely everything. So just to try and fit everything in, we are going to just kind of breeze through it and show every
high level overview.
Yeah. So
if you can't hear, just yell at us to speak up. We will. We also have these postcards here, which you should all take if you would like, because they have a discount code on the back. It's a single-use code, so it gives you 10% off one time.
Everything one time?
Yeah. Everything except, I think, the press, it doesn't count, but any of the dies. So yeah, feel free to grab anything you'd like. So this is the newest press that we're manufacturing. It's the only hydraulic press that we're currently selling. It's called a Rincon hydraulic press, and that name comes from some of the mountains in the area. So we have the Rincon Mountains, which Tucson is, that's a famous part of our landscape. And this was kind of revolutionary for us because it enabled us to drastically reduce the cost of a hydraulic press. It's about half the price that our standard press was selling for before. And that's because we can make it entirely in-house, which is really cool.
Exactly.
So we use a hydraulic cylinder. Right now we have it attached. This is our electric system. So this is the electric pump. If you're wondering why this looks like a spaghetti pot, it's because it is. So Kevin is kind of a MacGyver, and he likes to make things as affordable as possible for people. But it's filled with oil, and then there's an electric pump. The cylinder works also with a manual pump. So if you buy the manual version, there's a hand pump. We should have bought one, but we didn't. But you can see pictures of it online. So it can be used either electric or manual. And so the first thing that we kind of wanted to just talk about, we're not going to demonstrate, but we sell a lot of rolling mill pattern plates for your rolling mill. So we make these also all in-house. You're welcome to pass them around if you'd like. Take a look. Most of them have a rolled piece of copper with them, so you can see the pattern. We have about 350 of these designs for
available
sale.
all the time.
Yeah, they're available all the time. They don't come and go like the impression dies. And our plates are a little bit different than some other rolling mill pattern plates on the market in that ours are not etched. We have a different process for that. If you go through the tour at the shop, you might see some of that. I don't know if they're showing it or not, but ours are a little bit unique. And then we also sell, we call these narrow mill pattern plates, and they're like tiny versions for like rings or hoop earrings. We have some samples that you can look at later when we're done. But I just wanted to mention those. We didn't bring a rolling mill, so we're not going to show those in use, but we have a lot of videos online that you can watch.
And there's, I think 350 is right, about 350 different patterns.
For the narrow ones?
For the pattern plates in general.
The narrow ones, we probably have 20.
Yeah.
Just called narrow pattern.
Narrow mill pattern plates.
Yep.
They're under, if you go on our website, they're under the rolling mill umbrella category. They have their own special page though.
Yeah.
And we have instructions here if you would like to learn how to use those, and we have videos online.
Yeah.
So the first tool that we're actually going to demonstrate are pancake dies. And we brought a handful of pancake dies here. We sell a lot of different pancake dies in various shapes and sizes. Pancake dies, if you're not familiar with them, they're cutting dies.
Pass those around.
They will cut out sheet metal to save you time on sawing. Our pancake dies are manufactured to be used with sheet metal 16 gauge to 22 gauge.
Full hard metal.
Full hard.
Not annealed.
Yeah. So you want to work hard in your metal before cutting them in our pancake dies. You can use 16 through 22 gauge and silver, copper. You could use nickel. I don't know why you
gold
would, but
if you
choose.
choose.
If you're a bazillionaire. But they do not like red brass. So we always try to warn people, don't use red brass in our pancake dies. It gets stuck.
Yep.
So we have some sheet metal here that has been we're hardened by rolling through a rolling mill with one of our pattern plates so it's nice and stiff. And you just insert it into the pancake die. We have this like hinge cut. All of our pancake dies are laser cut. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like
Oh no, you're good.
moving
Show
fast.
them. I'll adjust.
Okay. So you can see in the window what you're cutting. You can line up your texture or whatever. You do want to make sure that you have like at least 1/8 of an inch of metal all the way around the area that you're cutting, because if there's too small of an overlap, the metal will like suck down into the die and get stuck. So you do need like 1/8 of an inch on all sides. And then we're going to put this in the press, and we want to make sure that the entire cutting area and hinge is covered and supported by a spacer.
Yep.
So one of the reasons we manufacture our presses with smaller platens is because it's a safety check for you. When the platens are smaller, it forces you to have less of a mess up area where you can have things off center.
It makes it easier to make sure that your work is fully properly centered. And so we sell these spacers that sort of can help you spread out the pressure of the press when you're doing things like the bracelet pancake die.
I need it to go down. It's not going down.
It might be down all the way.
No, it's not. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't actually.
So she's fully covering the surface of the pancake die.
And then I'm making sure that what's being cut, like what's having pressure, so the cutting area is what's centered under my platens.
And you'll hear a big pop when it cuts
Yeah,
through.
there's a loud noise. Sometimes it's alarming for people. That wasn't too bad.
The bracelets can be a little alarming.
Big bang. So then you can see I can remove my skeleton, and I have my blank cut out. Usually, sometimes they fall right out, but most of the time they don't. They need like a little tap on the back, and then they'll pop out. And so there's my part. You'll have a slight burr left on the back. It's like more or less depending on how thin or heavy of sheet metal you're cutting. You tend to get a larger burr with thinner sheet metal. But it really depends. Every individual die kind of behaves differently, and it depends on how hard or soft your metal is and what kind of metal it is. There's a lot of factors. But you might have a slight burr on the back, and then you also have this tab that you still need to remove. So some people will put if it's a symmetrical die, you can put your shape back in the die and just rotate it so the tab is in a different spot, and then cut it again. It'll remove the tab. Or most people will just use their jeweler saw to remove that.
Or snips, any kind of shears.
Yeah, like tin snips if you have them. And then you can just use a file and some sandpaper to zip that burr off the back. Yeah. So should I cut out a bracelet die too? Just so they can see a
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Sound good? Or we can use one of those.
This is kind of
Thin.
but it's fine.
You guys know what length the bracelets are?
Not off the top of
The
my
length?
head.
We sell most of our bracelet shape pancake dies. We sell in a few different lengths. At least our most popular shapes. So we'll have it in 5 3/4, 6 inch, 6 1/4, whatever.
And it's all listed on the product page.
Yeah.
I'm pretty familiar with all of it.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times, if it's something that we don't already offer, but a customer requests it, and we're like, oh yeah, that will be sellable. Like that's something people need. Then we'll
Just
just
shoot
go
us an
ahead
email.
and we'll just go ahead and add it to our catalog.
When I ask you a question.
Yes.
So if like that circle, if I only wanted half of that circle, it doesn't hurt the pancake die to just put your metal in half to cut a half circle, does it?
It depends on the shape if I
Yeah.
would recommend doing that or not. For a circle,
It would probably be okay.
it would, our recommendation, like our official recommendation would be cut the full shape.
Yeah.
and then use like a
Yeah.
shear or something to cut it in half. For a circle, I think it would be fine. But
For
it
something
changes
more
where the stress is on the die.
Okay.
And so it could bend potentially.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the
Yeah.
stress isn't in the same on the hinge.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Possible.
not designed to be used that way.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the official answer.
Easy, yeah.
Did you hand me a lobster?
I
for a
did
reason?
I handed you a lobster. Just saying on something like this, I would not do that. Something more
Now, if you
elaborate.
just wanted the claw shape, you wouldn't.
I would at least cut like that much
Okay.
of it.
Thank you.
Should I pass it around?
Does anyone want the lobster? You can have the lobster.
He's really cute.
Okay, so this is one of our bracelet pancake dies. It's gonna be a lot louder.
Maybe.
Maybe. You could get your
Okay, pop.
not that much
And then
louder.
as soon as you hear that pop,
Stop.
you stop. You
Stop.
don't need to bring the pressure all the way up. Because it's cut through the metal.
You can, if it's a texture cut, if you full pressure it, you can actually squish your
Yeah, your texture if you
Yeah.
go
out, yeah.
too hard. Ta-da.
So then you just have those tabs to remove, and you've got yourself a nice bracelet blank that's perfectly symmetrical, even. You didn't have to saw it out with your saw.
Yep.
All right. So that is pancake dies. Does anybody have any questions about pancake dies? Okay, I'm
No.
gonna move on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's the biggest gauge for pancake?
16 gauge.
16.
Yeah, and whenever I'm teaching like students, I always kind of like those are our general guidelines, but there are some pancake dies that are much more detailed, and I would never put 16 gauge in like our. Do we have an octopus or something?
I
like
think
some
with lots of
really
little
weird-
like spindly
even the
bits.
lobster, I don't think I would put 16 gauge in that. You probably can.
Mm-hmm.
But the more like little
Intricate and
narrow-
detailed.
yeah, the more detailed ones, the ones with like narrow areas, metal's more likely to get stuck in those
Yeah.
than it is in like a circle. So for the more intricate ones, definitely it's more important that your metal is
fully hard.
You can get away with less hard metal in something like this. Whereas, I know, live, I forgot.
Depends on how hard you want to work getting it out of the
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
those like fussy ones with lots of little detail and in and out areas, the metal has to be hard. It just
It
has
will
to.
make your life so much easier.
Yeah.
The harder your metal is, it'll pop out easier, it'll cut easier, less burr. Yeah.
And if it's really hard, you can do 24. I mean, I know you guys know that.
Sure.
You know, it does go back
Super
to how
hard.
Our customers like do things outside of those parameters,
Yes.
but our official recommendation is 16 to 22.
Yep.
If you put
After
24
rolling.
in it and it gets stuck, and then you call us, we'll say, well,
Yeah.
you didn't follow the instructions.
Yep.
Okay,
Do you wanna do
so
silhouette?
FSS or silhouette?
Let's do silhouette.
Did we also bring? Yes, we did.
Yep.
Okay. So another type of die we sell is something that we call a silhouette die. There are also people in the field that refer to these as matrix dies. And it's just like an open silhouette of a shape. And what you end up getting is a pillowed form in that shape. So I'll also pass around a pair of earrings. This bottom portion of the earring was made with a silhouette die. So we sell several different smaller shapes on these little 2-inch pucks. And then we also sell some larger ones that come on a 3-inch. And then we have even larger ones that we call dish formers. They're a bigger
Shape for forming little like trinket dishes or coin dishes.
Yeah, and we have two designs that are like spoon bowl shapes. There's like 4 different spoon bowl shapes on one silhouette die. These silhouette dies you can use with, they're going to be used with urethane. You can use them with a larger urethane pad like this, or you can use them in what's called a contained urethane system. So urethane, is everybody familiar with urethane? it's kind of like rubber, but under pressure, rubber will compress, whereas urethane flows, and it's gonna want to take the path of least resistance. So when you're trying to push metal up into this space, and you're using the urethane to push it, it's like, well, I could do that, but it's
Or I
easier
could go
to
out.
squish out the sides.
Yeah.
And so that you'll still get some pillowing, but it's not as efficient this way. So that's why we have these contained urethane systems. You can put your metal and your dye in here, and then the urethane doesn't have a choice. It has to push
go
up into
up.
that space because there's nowhere else for it to go. So either or works. This is going to push your metal further faster because it's a more efficient use of the urethane. Sometimes that can help you, sometimes that can hurt you. If you're using really thin sheet metal with your silhouette dyes, you're more likely to have tearing problems with the contained system because it's like, it's working really hard. You're less likely to have blowout with the pads because it's just not as efficient. Also, urethane has something called durometer that's how it's measured, and that refers to like the squishiness of it. So this is a much softer durometer. This is probably 60 or 65. And what's in the containment system is 95. It's much harder. The higher the number, the harder the urethane. The harder urethane is really great for detail. So that's why we use it with impression dyes, which we'll get into in a few minutes. This softer stuff will move your metal much further, much faster, so you get more volume. But it also work hardens your metal faster because it's making it move more. So there's like all these things that kind of come into play, and you really don't have to remember any of it.
No.
You just need to get a bunch of copper and play, and you'll figure it out. So we'll use the
Yes.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
No, I can. I'll show you with the contained urethane. I prefer the contained with a manual press because I can feel more what's happening. With the electric, for me, it's easier to tear them because I can't feel how much pressure there is. And I don't ever look at the gauge.
Ever. That's what I was going to kind of chime in and say. A lot of times people will ask, well, how much pressure do I need to use when using a silhouette dye or an impression dye or anything like that? And the answer is it depends. It's going to vary depending on the metal type you're using, the gauge you're using, how hard your metal is, what size your metal is. So if you know you're going to be making the same piece over and over and over again, keep notes.
Especially with silhouette dyes.
Yeah.
Because you will get like some low pillows and you'll get some high pillows. And if you want a bunch of multiples that are identical, it's important to know what pressure you have for the ideal pillow.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Once you figured out the ideal, you can adjust your
If you wanted to, yeah.
relief valve, and then you never have to look again, right?
Well, for that metal type,
Yeah,
for that,
particular
yeah. I've never adjusted the pressure on my press. A lot of times, especially with silhouette dyes, like what Lynette said, the manual, you can actually feel when it's getting to that point where it's exerting that much pressure. You lose some of that tactile quality with the electric.
it's doing all the work for you, which is
It's just great.
But it's harder to learn what's happening with the metal because you can't feel it with your body. We didn't anneal any metal for these, so I'm stealing
fine.
one of the pieces we annealed for the impression dyes. And one thing I'll do if I'm using the silhouette dyes with my electric press, and I do have like more. Shoot.
Got stuck in there.
Yeah. A little too big. If I thanks.
It's a live
If
demo.
I'm more nervous about
One of
it
these things
blowing
to
out.
try it out?
No, I don't think so. I will ever so slightly sand this edge. These steel silhouette dyes have a very sharp edge. They're straight up and down. They're laser cut. Let me actually pass around the one I'm not going to use. They have a hard edge, and that
Can
can
also
make it easier for your metal to tear, especially if you're using thinner metal. So sometimes I'll take like a cartridge sander, the sanding rolls. And I'll just sand the edge. So instead of the metal having to do this, it can have a softer start into that pillow, and it's less likely to tear. All right, so these are referred to as non-conforming dies. We have a die that doesn't have a male part. It's just the female. And so what we're using as the conforming part or the male part is the urethane. So our metal always needs to be between the urethane and the die, because the urethane is what's going to push
the metal into.
Yes. So I have urethane, annealed copper, die, pusher, and then I'll stick this in the press after I remove some of these spacers.
Do you always put that die in same side down? Does it matter?
For ours, sometimes one side will have like a little, this one doesn't, that one might. Sometimes from the laser process, one side will have like a little
nub, sort of.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Nub is a better word than I was gonna use. So like you could file that off, and then for symmetrical dies, it doesn't matter which side you use. For things that are asymmetrical, you might care if you're using side A or side B, especially if you're gonna make like hollow forms or something.
But both sides are usable.
Yes.
They're the.
Yeah.
And you said that's 95 durometer?
95 durometer is what comes in our contained kits.
Okay.
Yeah. So this I'm going to make sure is fully centered. And in your press, you always want to use, as many, is that as low as it goes? No, oh, it's not going down all the way. You always want to use as many spacers.
Oh, it's lowering.
It's just going really slow.
Really slow.
I was really impatient. You always want to use as many spacers as you can and still fit your tooling. So even if there's only a 1/2 inch in there, fill it with a spacer. And that's to extend the life of your RAM, and it's also safer way to use the press.
This RAM only has a 2-inch travel. So
it can't
go up all the way. So yeah, a good rule of thumb is if there's space for a 1/2 inch or an inch, add another spacer in there.
And then make sure you're centered both this way and this way. How do I look?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You look very centered.
Thanks. I don't feel centered, but this is. So
It's always better to press too little and then check.
okay, so I put barely any pressure. You can see that it's starting to pillow, but I don't have a lot of volume. So I can go a little further. I'll push it a little further. We'll probably blow it out, but then you can see what happens when you blow it out. Do the people on
There we go. You can see it's slightly pillowed. Push it a little bit more.
So I paid attention on the gauge to where I pushed it to. I'll push it a little further and hope I don't tear it.
You can always anneal in between pressings too.
Yeah, and that's...
There, you heard it.
So, I know that sound.
Yep.
Wow. I was not paying attention.
Well, it was also previously work hardened from pressing it that first time.
I didn't even see any pressure yet.
Way to show us what not to do.
I know.
That's why
I'm
we're
good at
here.
Okay.
No, but no, you make mistakes makes us feel better about it.
Oh yeah.
What is that? Do us
It's
When
also,
you-
if you're working in your quiet studio, you can hear a lot better than you can in here. So that was way too much pressure.
Yeah.
That's why
It's
get a bunch of
design
scrap
element.
Didn't
copper.
we do? Oh yeah.
So with doing this, we start with the nail metal.
Annealed metal. Yes.
Yep.
Whereas the other
And I'm
Correct.
making it look a little hard. It actually is significantly harder for me to press silhouette dies with an electric than it is with a manual. It's so much easier to build slowly up on your pressure with a manual press. So I'll show you, while that's passing around, I'll show you one of our larger.
Oh, I was just gonna
Okay.
take it out of your way.
I'm like, what do you want? So I'll show you our bird dish former. So we have pre-cut this with, we have matching pancake dies for all of these large silhouette shapes. So I've
We've got
pre-cut
hearts and
this.
ovals and squares and
Oh.
all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and something I didn't mention about silhouette dies, we talked about it with pancake dies. You want, with pancake dies, do you remember how much extra metal around the edge I said you should have?
Yeah? Yeah.
Yes. So with silhouette dies, actually we recommend about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, because the metal's moving so far, it'll suck into the form if you don't have enough extra metal around the edge. So about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Let me get this.
So the pancake dies, are they exactly 1/4 inch bigger than the silhouette?
Approximately, yeah. Yeah.
We have to, they're not directly proportional always, because
Yeah.
sometimes with silhouette dies, you'll get the biggest pillowing in the center of the shape, and then it tapers off towards the edges. And so for things like, like wide open areas, you'll get a lot more volume than you will with narrow areas. So for something like a star, you would get a lot of volume in the very middle of the form, but out towards the tips of the star, almost no volume. And that's just the nature of this way of forming. So sometimes we have to, like, this is depending on like how much volume we're getting, it'll pull the edge in more.
More
and so
or
we have
less.
to allow for that in our design. But that's something where we draw it and then we test it and then
Right.
we see, oh, it pulled in more in this area. We have to add a little bit, make it a little fatter on this side. But yeah, generally they're big enough for you to have the lid. It was a really long-winded way to answer your question.
The amount of testing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. So,
Hopefully I'm getting this lined up. I've never actually used this bird one.
I haven't either. Will there be room for both of those? Probably not.
I think there is. Yeah. Okay, so remember we're making this sandwich where our metal is always between the die and the urethane. So I'm going to put my urethane on top, and it's nice that we have the clear urethane because then you can see if you've jostled anything and it's moved.
You can also tape your piece to the die. Carefully slide it in.
Oh, but I have to put a spacer on top. That's what you were
Is there
saying.
room? There might be room. No. Okay.
I was like, it'll fit.
No problem.
No. Okay. And this is wider than the upper platen. So I put it in and press, and then I'm just going to kind of press a little bit more on each edge to make sure I'm getting like the full shape. And then we'll take it out and look at it and see how we did.
Oh yeah, perfect.
So I got a little bit of volume. I could definitely push this further and get it a little bit deeper, but go ahead and take a look as it is now, and then we'll push it a little bit more.
With the dish formers, I guess with any silhouette die too, if you wanted to make it even deeper, start with much thicker material and you could stack 2 of the same impression die, line them up, so then you would have more vertical depth to press your metal into.
Our silhouette dies are cut with 1/4 inch steel. So you could stack 2 or 3 and get, a much deeper pillowing. You would need to start with thicker.
Much
gauge
thicker.
metal, so
16 probably for
Yeah.
something like that.
definitely nothing thinner than 18 if you're
Yeah.
just trying to go deep. But you also will only get as much volume, 1, as the die is thick, but 2, as the urethane
Is
deep.
thick.
So you also would need to stack extra pads on top of each other so you have enough to push into the form. So we'll push it a little bit more and then we'll move on. And if any point you want to trade, just let me know.
Okay.
While you're pressing that one little trick I've done, it actually makes a sandwich with two spaces.
Oh
So
yeah.
you build a sandwich and then you can slide it all
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
all at once and do it.
And you don't have to like
Yeah, you don't have to
worry
mess
about
around with
moving
the
things
flex on
around.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Smart. Oh. It didn't, after I passed it around, I didn't actually
Realign it.
check that it was realigned. So it moved a little, but that's okay. So we could get a little more volume out of this, but we're pretty close to the maximum depth for a 1/4 inch die. So you can pass that around. It got jostled, so it's a little weird on the tail.
What are all those weird on the tail? Let me show you a weird tail.
Okay.
Do you want to impression dies?
Sure.
Want me to do that?
How are we doing on time?
We've been live for 31 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, we need to move to impression dies. Do you want to do it?
I can do it.
Okay, let's switch.
I'm going to give you this. Don't film me climbing under.
Limbo.
All right.
I'm going to do a little setup real quick. I'm going to lower the platen as much as I can. And then let me just grab something easy. There we go.
I annealed the copper that I annealed. There should be something close to that shape.
Okay.
Oh, and this is, we did a silver bar for that one too. And some shots.
Bear with me just a second. Get everything going.
Do you mind if I come around the other side?
No, yeah, that's fine.
That would have been.
And I can move if you want to be here.
Okay, so one of the things that we're probably most well known for is our collection of die striking hubs that are used to make impression dies. We have a bunch of examples up here, but essentially what we do is there's an original like hand carved positive design, and we drive that positive shape into the steel puck. So you get the negative of that design in the puck. Then when you press your metal, you're left with the positive. And we have probably 40 different companies from all over the world. So that's the range of styles that we have is unreal. We have everything from architectural elements to French Art Nouveau, all sorts of styles. But to use them, you will need one of the tool steel pushers. It's magnetic and it has a tool steel face. And what that does, that gets placed in the center of your upper platen. Again, make sure that it's fully centered, left to right and front to back.
And that should work with any press, right?
As long as the upper platen is steel. Yeah.
Yep, that's why we make a lot of our accessories magnetic, is so they can work in any press that you have.
Mm-hmm. So what this does is this steel pusher focuses all of the pressure of the press. Instead of across this whole surface, it's focused on this smaller surface area. I like to think of it, see if I can do this analogy. Think of it like walking on grass in snowshoes versus stiletto heels. So if you were walking in the grass on the snowshoes, you know, you're on top. Your weight is spread out. Whereas if you use a smaller diameter, you would sink down into it. And the same sort of thing applies to metal. When you're working with a smaller piece, you need less pressure. So you always want to use annealed metal with your impression dies. This is probably 20 gauge annealed copper. This is a fairly simple design. Oh, there we go. Okay. And we're going to use these small pieces of urethane. as essentially the force or the pusher to push your metal down into that impression die. You want to use tiny pieces, sort of the same way that Lynette talked about, like it wants to go to the path of least resistance. So if you have a big chunk of urethane, it'll spread out sooner than it will go down.
What durometer is that?
This is 90 or 95.
Is all this going to be online so then we can look at it?
It already is, yeah.
Okay.
We also
We
have
have-
these cards.
We have lots of like both edited videos that are shorter and more like condensed that have all this information, and we also have tons of live videos on our YouTube channel. That black card right there is a direct link to our YouTube channel.
And when you're making a little bit bigger die, and
Yeah.
you want to see your first initial impression, so it sits in there.
Uh-huh.
Do you still want to use small, or do you want to use a little bit bigger piece?
I like to use small. So when you're
I use big.
see, everybody does something
Just
different.
for the initial, just to like get the general form, and then I swap it out for a smaller piece.
Yeah.
But-
so the main goal with impression dies is you want to reach the deepest part of the design first. So this is sort of a good example of one that's a lot deeper.
Oh yeah,
So much deeper.
quite a bit. Yeah, several millimeters. Wow.
I'll pass that around too. That one's probably fine silver.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Is it better to press fine silver than sterling?
Fine silver it presses
I
beautifully.
bet it presses
It's a dream.
It is a dream compared to copper or sterling. Sterling is much
Is
harder.
there a typical gauge of fine silver?
It really depends on the die.
Pressing it does work hard in it, right?
It does, yeah. So die-struck jewelry, because all of the curves of the metal, they're so compound, a die-struck piece is substantially harder
Right.
than like a cast piece.
But it depends what you're making. Like
Right.
earrings or a pendant, fine silver, fine. A ring,
Rings?
Oh yeah.
it's not a good
durable
idea.
enough.
Yeah.
Hold up.
Even for a ring top, is it okay?
For a what?
A ring top?
I
So you
wouldn't.
sterling?
Yeah. that
Just
would,
because
yeah.
it is still a soft metal. And so, and heavy-duty, hard-wearing items.
That's why they came to the alloy that sterling is. Whenever they alloy metal, it's to improve the working characteristics and like the end result of whatever that metal is intended for. So by alloying silver the way they do for sterling, it makes it harder. And it,
Retains that white color.
yeah.
Okay. So to press this, I have stacked my metal on top of the design with my little piece of urethane.
That's tiny.
Tiny.
Wow. When I've done this before, we use sheets that were the whole size of these plates.
Oh,
Yeah, that makes it harder.
it makes it harder.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super hard. Wow.
Okay.
So
And
we sell these
Oh great.
little
You sell these
urethane,
tiny
but it's
pieces.
literally just the pads cut up
Cut
into
up.
pieces.
So
Yeah.
is it? It covers the whole impression.
well, this impression is pretty simple and it's small. So
And it's shallow.
It's
Covers the
shallow.
center of it.
Yeah.
Great.
So when you are centering your work, it's extremely important that the area that you are working on is centered, not the entire die itself. So let's just say on this one, it has lots of small designs. If I wanted to press this piece, I would center this section underneath the tool steel pusher. Wherever I am applying force, that's what's going to be centered. And I'll show you that. We're going to do a shot plate. Okay, so I want to make sure everything's centered. And then I like to kind of stand off to the side but get down so I can see how much pressure.
We should be wearing goggles, correct?
Yeah.
But we're using it properly, safely, centering, nothing bad will happen. Do you want to talk about bronze dyes or?
Oh, yeah. You'll find a lot of bronze or brass dyes
Yes.
available super cheap. 100% do not put those in a press. Those
Oh,
are
wow.
designed for very fine, very thin gold used with a hammer.
Oh yeah.
Those dyes are extremely brittle, and under pressure, they shatter and they will
Explode.
explode. People have gone to the hospital. They've had major.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So
So
never in a press.
never in a never
Use with a
in a
rawhide
press.
hammer.
Even if they're sold like and said you can use these in a press, if they're bronze dyes, do not use them in a press.
No.
What?
Seriously injured.
What are your dyes? Stainless?
They are mild steel.
Mild steel, great.
Yep. So these will never like fracture. They're not brittle enough.
Yeah.
About how many designs do you have?
Oh my gosh.
A million. A
Not
million.
even a million is like probably underestimating.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Okay, so this, I didn't check the gauge. I never check the gauge because it varies so much. This is what it looks like from the back.
That was so fast.
You see it, Patty?
I bet I've seen a few.
Yeah. Once or twice.
Okay, and so that, I didn't even press it hard enough. I got some of the
Pass it
detail.
around.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay, so that brings me to my question about dyes. How do you guys correct the register for the second and third or fourth pressing on something that doesn't just naturally fall into place? I know a few of them will fall into place, but
I
that's
start
where
over.
I've really struggled with.
I start
you know,
over.
with like
Unfortunately.
the first dye I got was a concho dye,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, like with really fine detail.
yeah, but it's also real deep.
Yeah.
So if you press it and you go deep,
Uh-huh.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't put some of the detail in.
Don't take it out.
Don't take it.
But also-
you have to anneal it.
Yes, you do. So sometimes if it's something like that and I can build up some of the volume a different way before even putting it into the dye, like by dapping or just forming on a sandbag or something to get
Okay.
some of the depth, and then
Oh, okay.
you're not having, then you can anneal before you even bring it over to the impression dye.
Okay.
Give it a head start.
Give it
Yeah.
a head start. Okay, so I'm going to re-register it in place. I'm going to just kind of wiggle it back and forth until it locks in, and then I'm just going to go full send and press.
Hey, look who's here.
Look at this. He's going to tell us if we're doing it wrong. Okay, so now I'm just going to press it a lot harder.
Yeah.
A lot better. We got all of the detail.
That's great.
Yeah. Easy.
How high up did you go?
I never watch.
Yeah, you go by
I
sound.
never use my gauge.
Me either.
Right.
We can pass that around. So
Oh,
another.
I showed you. I'm sorry.
We're trying not to show you.
You couldn't see me.
I didn't mean to.
Another
Gentlemen, witness
type
protection program.
of popular dye, or what we call
What's that?
shot dyes. And shot dyes are ones, they're typically pressed solid. They're very tiny, usually ½ inch or smaller. And there's usually more than one design on a block.
This one is available today if you go
Oh,
on our
look at
site.
you.
I know. I thought ahead.
So with these, often what you'll do is you'll just ball up some silver scrap
Like in a charcoal block, just melt a blob.
to create a little blob. That's perfect. Shot plates are, like I mentioned, the snowshoe stiletto thing. It's really easy to overpress these, and because there's so much force on that small section, it is possible for the metal to deform the die. So, like with everything, it's better to just press a little, check it, press it, check it. But I'm going to, again, you can see I'm centering it, but I'm centering the section of the die that I'm working on. I'm not centering the entire puck or the entire block. I'm centering only the part where I'm going to be exerting pressure. Make that centered a little bit better. That's pretty good. All right, and then I'm just going to slowly creep up on it. I'm going to watch my silver and see how it compresses and stop when I think I need to stop. A lot of it's just experimentation. Watching it squeeze a little bit. There we go.
So it's nice if you can put your press on a table where It's up a little higher so you can, you're not.
Unless you really leg day.
Who needs a gym when you have
Who needs a gym?
With the electric, can you control how quickly it's moving too, or just?
I just like tap like the handle and I'm watching it. I'm just like.
Yeah. I mean, it has like one speed, but you control when it's moving.
How fast?
Yeah.
So this is what it looks like. Most of these will need to be popped out. We like to use.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, so it flattens it.
So use a chisel.
Use a chisel. You can use a bench knife.
I found a really cute bench knife in here. Where was it? I think back, yeah, with the watch repair tools. There's some really cute bench knives back there that would be perfect.
Yeah.
This corner over here.
Yep. And so I use a dull kitchen knife that I don't even know where it came from. Kind of whatever works for
Are you
you.
worried about scratching the die?
I'm not.
You're not going into
Right.
you're not going down.
And
You're
that's
just
what
getting
affects
between the
not
silver and the
design,
dye.
so.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll need to tap it harder. This one popped pretty easily.
This is sterling.
This is
Sterling.
maybe
It's sterling.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Wow.
And I didn't fully get one part of the heart. So yeah.
Just pass it
I'll
around.
pass it around and I'll press another
And
one.
there's is it called shot dies?
Yeah, shot plates. And really, any die could, in theory, be pressed like this with a solid
Right.
piece of silver.
Okay, right.
But some that would be real heavy for some of the dies.
I knew you were gonna look at me.
Okay, I'm gonna press another one. So same thing. We have a melted piece of silver. Everything is perfectly centered under the pusher, left to right, front to back.
So you are not using polyurethane.
I am not because
When you're pressing solid, the
Yeah.
metal pushes itself into the die.
Okay.
If we were using sheet
Yeah.
to push into the die, we would need the urethane to push. But with solid, it's the metal's doing all the work.
exactly.
And you're not worried about stepping top of metal or back. I mean,
As long as we're not exerting too much pressure in such a small area.
that was so fast. Wow.
And this is our electric press, but everything that we sell can be used in the manual press.
And dies this size can be used with a hammer and a punch if you're pressing solid.
We have your hydraulic press at Pima in the metal studio, and it's very, very simple to use. Yeah. One of
Sometimes,
these.
like this one got a little more stuck in than usual. So,
More detail.
so what I'll do also is take a mallet, keep it flat against the surface of the die, and just give it a little tap. There we go.
Somebody asked, is there any lubrication used with shot plates before placing
You
the
can.
silver?
You can. Any kind of oil.
We never do though.
Oh, thanks. Here's another little heart. So this is the one I just did. Same, yeah. And then it said this one's up on the website.
Yep,
today.
it's available today, but it'll come down tomorrow at 10 a.m. So if you want it, you need to go log in and buy it today. We change the impression dies that we offer every single day. So we have something different as far as impression dies, different things that we offer every single day.
Yeah.
And once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, once it.
We occasionally bring things back, but I would assume that once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, it might be 2 years before we bring it back.
And where do you see that?
So we have 2 areas on our website that you can find impression dies. There's on our menu bar on the left-hand side, there's a tab that's called Facebook Specials. Those are where dies change every single day. Then under there's another tab that's called Dies, and you click on that, and there's
Monthly.
a section for monthly impression dies, and those are up for an entire month at a time. So we're actually getting a new section.
Today.
Is it today or tomorrow?
Today.
Is today the 1st?
Yeah.
Oh, today!
Today.
So the February dies went live today.
And if they didn't, I will fix it after this video.
We haven't actually checked, but yeah.
Yep, so this is the one we're going to do next. So this
Thank you.
is a ring,
Oh, wow. No way.
and we're going to press it solid just like we did the other. So this is a I don't even know what gauge.
It might be 6 gauge, right?
Yeah.
Sterling.
It's heavy,
It's heavy gauge.
Right.
but it
it's
makes a
sterling.
really nice weight ring.
Beautiful.
Yep. And so to make pressing the rings easier, we have a rectangular tool steel pusher.
Oh, of course you do.
Of course. So
You
aga-
don't have to have that though. You can use the round tool steel pusher.
Are those magnetic? How
They
do
are.
attach? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
here's
even
the
if you
other-
don't have a
This is the
potter
one that
press,
you-
you can
oh.
still use our accessories.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So they're interchangeable with other types of presses.
Yep,
long
as
as
long
it's
as as long as it's magnetic on the
Right.
press you're using.
That's so.
So if you
amazing.
had the round one, would you do half and then
Yep.
half?
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes
Yeah.
using a round one's better because you'll get a deeper impression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's smaller surface area than the rectangular one, so it concentrates the force a little bit more. You want to come up here, Kevin?
You don't want to come
Are you
down
sure?
What
Okay.
is this
We'll leave this to
plate called?
professionals.
Again?
Oh, this A die?
The die. Yeah, what's the die called? What
Oh, it's a
die?
ring.
It's a ring, but it's like, is it also? It's still a shot.
No, it's
Not
just an
really.
impression
It's just an
die.
impression
Yeah.
die. Okay, cool.
It's a little bit too large to be like classified as a shot plate
Sure.
die.
Sure.
But we are pressing it solid. So
Amazing.
I have the rectangular spacer centered in the press. Oh, it's just a little bit.
If you whack that wire and straighten it out with the rawhide, will it? No. Okay.
It's a demo. Okay, so then I'm going to make sure that the ring, everything is centered, everything looks good. And we're gonna press it again.
What model of press is this?
This is our Rincon. It is the only press that we make.
Oh, cool. How much is it around?
$9.50 plus you get
A $250 shipping credit,
Amazing.
and you get 15% off
impression
all
dies.
all impression dies for the first 3 months after you purchase your press.
That's
Yep.
a great deal. That's a lot less than
That's the manual.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, the electric I do not
It's
have the price.
$2,000 more.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have it memorized, but it's significantly more.
Right.
So what I'm doing, I've pressed it and then I'm rotating it slightly,
Okay.
pressing it again. This just helps you to more evenly press it because no matter how centered you think something is, it's going to be like a little off. Yeah. So,
Hand in there.
sorry, don't put your hand in there.
Don't put your hand in there. Yeah.
And so we're gonna pop that out.
That's so lovely.
And there we got it. I'll pass this one around too.
Did you get it all?
So then you would
Yeah,
simply...
pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the ends are missing a little, so you could trim some of the excess metal around the shape and then press it again, and it would fill the rest in.
So you would trim it, press it, and then anneal it and put on a mandrel.
Yeah.
Ring.
Yeah, or we have forming tools that we might not have time to get to, but we do have a ring forming attachment that works with our bracelet forming frame. And you could use the press to bend, so then you're not trying to bend really heavy material.
Right.
And we also have another tool that we didn't bring called our quick form press, and it's a really heavy duty ring bender tool. You can also make bracelets on it. It's on our site. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful tool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very heavy duty.
And it's just powerusa.com.
Yep.
USA.com. Yeah. Time wise, where are we at?
We've been an hour.
We've been an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do a Q&A now if you want.
Yeah.
Will you do the ring, the earring?
Oh, the earring
Oh,
wire.
Oh, yeah. I'll do that. Or
Okay.
do you want to?
No, you can.
Okay. Yeah, so we have some new tools that we're pretty excited about. We're
Do you
still
want me to clear off space?
You're fine. I can just put it. So these are called ear wire formers or ear wire forming tools, and they're different little jigs. I'll pass this one around with the little ear wire that it makes. This particular one that I'm going to pass around makes a kidney ear wire. Oh, can you? I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't pass the earring around. It's up to you. What do you think? Should we do it? Okay.
Yeah, we'll
So right now we have 3 different shapes available, but we have more in process of being like drawn and designed and built. So we'll be releasing other designs.
These are awesome.
They're really fun. So this is our ear wire former number 1, and it makes like a very traditional standard fish hook style earring. And it's meant to be used with like a silver wire that you've balled up the end. You don't have to ball up the end, but that's how we designed it, so it works better that way. And then this is a base that we sell. You can come up closer if you want. You don't need the base, but it makes it easier because the tool will just drop down onto the base, and then you're not, things aren't moving around. You can also just put this in like a bench vise, so it's held if you don't want to buy the base.
Good magnet.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to flip this so I'm not upside down. And then it comes with this. This is part of the tool. So what we're going to do is I have my balled up end down here, and I'm going to insert, and we have videos and like written instructions for this online. So, but the longer peg drops down into the hole, and the wire, let's see, it drops into this hole. So long peg, left-hand side hole, with that ball being pulled all the way back against those little legs, and then you just twist this until that second peg drops into the second hole. And what that's done is it's formed the loop that then your little dangle earring, needs to dangle something. Let's see if I can get this back in here.
What is the length of wire in that?
I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to say it. So we have a line engraved on here that you can
Trim your metal
to
that length.
So I like mine a little bit longer. So mine are a little bit longer than that, about half inch longer. But this is the minimum you can use with this former. And then we use arm number 1 to form, and then you push down on arm number 2, and it bends the ear wire for you.
They really clearly labeled. That's great.
And then if you want to close this down a little bit more, you can put it around this part on the top here and just like squeeze it in. I like mine a little tighter.
Yeah.
And then you can trim it as short as you want, but it'll make an ear wire like this.
And they'll all be the same.
All be identical, which is the hardest part. Like as a teacher, I've noticed with students, they have a really hard, they can make an ear wire, but it's hard to make 2 that look exactly the same. So that's the tool. And we have this one, pass this around with it too, would you? This one makes a similar style, but it's a little bit more angular. So that's a fun kind of more modern design. And I know I've given our machinist 3 more that are in queue, but he's busy.
Where are these manufactured?
Here, everything's here in Tucson. Yeah.
Oh, you guys are local.
Yeah. Oh, you have to come over.
This is the owner.
This is Kevin. Danielle's around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, you're welcome in anytime.
Amazing.
So,
Lynette, on this one, is it, and then you add this in.
yeah, so I
We didn't.
didn't prepare that.
There you go.
I can show you that one though. Let me cut off that one you don't ball up.
Yes, she already.
Oh, I need a plier.
Yeah.
Do you
Make balls in advance.
I need a
do
round
nose plier? Okay.
I'm putting them all right there.
Perfect.
So
So to
these.
do the kidney wire, where's the jig? Oh,
Right here.
okay. So you
Where's
start.
the jig?
You start.
The jig is out.
So demanding.
For the kidney wire, you have to start it with a round nose plier.
Okay.
And you make the catch. So you
Okay.
just do like this little horseshoe bend at the end of a wire. And this same thing, there's a length on here that tells you cut it to this length. I'm going to keep it long just because.
Yeah.
So I'll bend my little U catch.
Okay.
And then we'll drop this on here. It's upside down for me, I think, right?
How do you know?
Well, it doesn't really matter. I'm just which way I want
Whatever's
my
more
brain
comfortable.
oriented. So then this goes in here with the catch facing up.
Okay.
Arm 1 pushes, yep. And then arm 2 comes down. You have to hold this though.
Can we hold up?
No,
How many people does it take?
it just takes one. So then arm 2, see how it, I'm just trying to hold it so you can see while I do
get
it.
Yeah, I get it.
And then you wrap this around that top and bring arm 3 down.
But you squish it pretty hard, right?
Yeah, I shouldn't have brought arm 2 all the way down before I pulled that.
And do you recommend hard wire versus annealed wire?
So
I like half hard.
Okay.
Yeah. That just keeps the ear wires pretty springy.
Yeah.
yeah, I use half hard. I messed that one up, so we're gonna do it one more time. Trying to hold it so everyone can see is the trick.
And we do have videos of each one of these
Yeah.
being used, as well as all of our other tools. So grab all the postcards you
These are
want.
marked with the 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah,
When you
right
buy-
there in the bottom
Yeah, yeah,
corner
yeah.
it says EW2 or
Yes.
EWF2. So ear wire former
So that
number 2.
is silhouette
See
dies.
now,
Yeah, I know,
now
but was
arm
this
1
a
and arm 2
A pattern
down.
plate.
The
And then we're
pattern
gonna
plate to
bring
start
down arm
with?
3 and finish it
The
off.
design on it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
it's a pattern plate.
And
One of
then
our
Don't have a roller.
350.
you can trim.
You
the ends
can
off.
use it with a press. It is just a lot more difficult. Oh yeah, you already did it. I didn't even.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So if
So-
you wanted this to press it down
So it closes?
so it closes,
Yeah.
you would
do
just
it.
start with a longer, no.
Yeah. And maybe let's try it.
Yeah.
I haven't done that specifically. I think we can probably end the
Okay,
live
do the
stream unless you
lives.
want to do the
I will-
Q&A.
Nah. We are going to, I'll just take you on a little tour of all of the stuff that we have here. These are some of our impression dies with samples that we have stamped so you can see what the finished product could be. So everything that we've shown is available at potterusa.com. We got the contained urethane for silhouette. Bye. Bye.
He was afraid you were out of line.
I know. He came to check up on us.
I bet they're going to lunch.
I believe that, yeah. And these are all bracelets that are, some of them were cut out with our pancake dies, textured with pattern plates, and all that. So check out potterusa.com. We also have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that. So thanks for hanging out with us at Kent's Tools, and come visit us anytime.